That's the angle.
Ooh, what?
That's the podcast.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to That's the Angle. In this episode, I am joined with TImur. What's going on, bro?
You know, just like chilling, thriving during that quarantine life.
Yeah, I was actually really scared to say your last name for a second. It's Tugberk?
Tugberk, yeah.
Okay.
In Turkish, it's Tugberk. There's like a little accent over the G, and it is silent and prolongs the vowel before it. So,
okay. I didn't want to make myself look dumb again.
No, you good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I got this random energy drink that I've never tried before. So let's get some crackhead energy going. And I've just been thinking a whole lot about, you know, we're so clearly in just such unique, never before seen times. And, you know, I specifically wanted to have you on the show because you have a very unique perspective on just like the landscape of certain things. And I think one of those things is like the influencing and blogger world, because when this whole thing started, I didn't know what direction it would like have for creatives, for freelancers, for bloggers, for influencers. And now that what are we like 3 or 4 months in now? Now all the unemployment, 4 months, all the unemployment benefits are actually about to end this month, which I think, you know, and that's not what I'm trying to talk about, but I'm saying like now that that's coming to an end, now it's going to get really scarce because we're starting to see the long-term effects of, you know, what this really means. And so I guess it's like, I'm just so curious, like from your perspective, like what has happened to the blogging and to the influencer world?
Yeah, well, a couple things before I answer that. So for everyone's context, number one, this is the first time you and I are actually catching up since, other than like DMs on Instagram, like, hey, how are you? How are you doing? So, and we haven't rehearsed any of this. And I just want everyone to know that, because like, this is just you and me talking, and I love this so much. So to dive into your question about influencer blogger world, in general, I think this is just a specific question about real-time relevant marketing in 2020. I think this year specifically due to quarantine and Corona gave everybody, whatever you do for work, whatever you do with your spare time, free time, like a moment of reflection and a moment to like freak out because of the unknown and then regain your sense of self. Some people, and this is just general, we're not talking about influencers just yet. Yeah. Some people, like I interact with many people, even some people, you know, close, that are on a completely different wavelength from where I'm at in terms of just how I've tiptoed back into this new normal that I fully embraced. Like the present day is reality, so this is normal.
Yeah, right. Know? The new normal it's a good way to put it. The new normal.
The new normal is right now, today. Tomorrow is unforeseen, and yesterday is the past. You know, so that I'm saying that because in my mind, my approach, I did take a moment, like when all this happened, like I tried to play it normal at first, like, you know, like, oh, let me like play with these new technologies and do something different so that everyone feels together. But then like it was a little scary, you know, so I kind of took a moment to just focus on me and my family.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. Sorry to cut you off there, but like that's like one difficulty of Zoom combos is like naturally segmenting into conversations. So it's okay if we interrupt each other a little bit.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
And this is Wiley, by the way. Like I think Zoom protocol permits children and dogs to join the conversation.
I'm all for it.
I think what happened in my unique experience was a couple things. Number one, I was freaking out about work and what tomorrow holds. And then at some point I realized, like, why are you freaking out? You still have clients. Like, we all flew off the cliff. This wasn't 10 years ago when I went through the last recession where like we didn't have clients. We didn't have work. Like there was no money. There was like people were healthy, but there was just literally no work to be done. Whereas this time around, yes, there was no work, but it was a forced closure out of our control for literally unseen and unforeseen reasons.
You're talking about the last recession?
No, I'm talking about this one now. Like this one, it's like very out of our control. It wasn't human controlled or human error, you know? Yeah. And the economy didn't fall out because of human error. The economy was put on a forced halt because everyone had to go home. So I fully embraced the fact I'm like, I have work and like.
Well, even then, sorry to interrupt, but even then it's like, it's weird because it's not the entire economy. There's still sectors of it, like the government and everyone who's not creative and freelance and stuff like that are still 100% fine. They've just changed the way they work. You know, like they're just working from home, but nothing has changed. It's not like an actual recession where everyone suffers across the board. It's like you have this weird sort of like discrepancies where our freelance photographer is completely fucked, and we can curse and say whatever on this, but then someone who works for the government 9 to 5 is just like, no big deal. I'm just working from home.
But Bruce, that's for now. So when I was going through this period in April, you know, a lot of what I would talk with my partner about, I'm like, oh, it's so hard. Like, I don't understand why people are not getting it where I'm coming from with my freak out, you know, because they're sitting at home working remotely as if nothing's happening other than quarantine. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got over the things that I couldn't control, embraced the fact that I still had work and clients, recaptured the gusto, like now is today, and now is the time to not just stop doing what I was doing to help along those I had been contracted to, and of course, love doing what I do. For those of you who don't know me, I run brands. I do brand marketing. I design brands. I throw events and parties. I just creative services in the brand development world. Mm-hmm. So I realized I was actually still doing a little work even in my moment of pause. And then I just picked up the pace. I'm like, you know what? Now's the time to like keep working on those things. Like whether or not you're getting paid, this too shall pass. Yeah. And regardless, those businesses, my clients are specifically lifestyle, you know, restaurants, bars, salons, spas, luxury.
That's interesting that the primarity of your clients are the people who are hit the hardest, yet you're still doing like okay.
I got dragged off of this metaphysical cliff for both terms with everyone else, you know, like my designing the district Zeppelin was tethered to these ships that flew off the edge of the flat earth, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
However, my designing the district Zeppelin also prevented these businesses from flying fully off of this earth.
Interesting.
And it was, I feel much more actually appreciated by the decision I made to not fully freak out and give up. Because when people started to come out of the hibernation, I really was the first people that my clients called to be like, hey, you know, like, okay, we got our PPP, or like, we want to talk about like how, you know, we need your ideas, or like, how are we going to go about marketing, or like, what do you think is safe? What's or PPP? What do you think is the personal, what's it called? The loans. The paycheck protection loans, you know, so the government assisted loans for small businesses, which that was not one of them that I qualified for. So, you know, like many different things. But one thing that was recognized was like, you know, of all of our staff, and you're not even full-time staff, you were the one person that kept doing your job without even having to say anything, you know?
And by so like doing your job, that would be like posting on social for them and just continually marketing.
Running the social media, like engaging with the owners, being like, hey, how are you? How is everyone? Like, what's going on? You know, like not even talking fully about work, just checking in like a human, you know?
That's so important during this time, was just literally just checking in on people and being like, yo, dude, like, are you okay? Like I had a friend who recently, right before it happened, he quit his full-time job to become a full-time influencer. And I checked on him like a month in. I was like, dude, are you okay? Like, I know you got a fam. Like, I'm worried about you. And I think he's handling it well.
Yeah, well, like, I just to get more personal, like, over my years now, I am a very sensitive being. However, the one part of sensitivity, the like boo-hoo factor, woe is me, like I kind of shed that one like 4 years ago, where I'm like, you know what? Shit happens. It's what you do with it that really makes you the person. I was very grateful once the government assistance stimulus came through. That made me feel like less like like I'm about to like die. You know what I mean?
All of us, yeah.
And then my work that I was tepidly but actively still doing was starting to reemerge when like restaurants were able to do takeout, carry out, like when we were actually allowed to start walking outside. And also during that period of downtime, April was really the biggest downtime. I loved it, by the way, like loved a little, like, I don't need to post on social media. I don't need to,
like you couldn't even post if it wasn't like an activist post. So it's like there's nothing you have to post. And if it's not activism, it's like, just don't. So you're literally sitting there like, what's the point of social right now?
Yeah. I also just wasn't in the mood and had nothing outside of my everyday maintaining my sense of best self and happiness. I had nothing else to fully offer, my partner literally had left his job, and like right before we all had to force closure in March to move up here from Miami. So in my mind, I was like, you know what a great opportunity. We're forced to be together, finally living together in a new place, new city for him. Like, let's invest that initial time in us, like what a special gift to be quarantined with what will hopefully and will be my forever plus one, and that's what I chose to focus on. And, that really recharged me, because I am sensitive, like I told you, and I'm very personal, even when it comes to professional. Like, I'm very passionate about what I do for a living. I love to create things that bring people together to a positively beneficial outcome, which that's how I look at marketing. Like, you're not going to catch me taking a job to get a paycheck. I tend to believe that I pick my clients because I believe in it. And like, I did the whole corporate song and dance. I sipped the other people's Kool-Aid for a long time. And you know what it taught me? Like, bitch, the only way you're going to really succeed in life is if you do it your way. Like,
and I think that's a realization that a lot of people have been not even if they wanted it, they've been stowed at the idea that they have to do it their own way. Because I think, like you said, reflecting during this time, is people were like, wait a minute, ain't nothing guaranteed. What do I really want? What am I really doing? People went back and like audited their lives. Like, is my gym membership really necessary? I could go outside. Is this necessary? Do I really need to be going out to eat so much? Like, also, and then personally, it's like, what do I really like to do? Yeah. And it's nuts. It's nuts.
Well, something about the gym and that whole thing. So, and I feel bad. I need to like slap myself on the wrist, because during that initial part of quarantine, like Eric and I got so good at the Safeway runs and like budgeting. And we were like, shit, we're getting everything we want at Safeway and we're learning to cook. And if we were to do this for a whole year, our total food budget would be 10 grand. That's it, like, whereas I looked at my bank statements from before and I'm like, oh, like, $3,000 on food and beverage recreation a month. You know what I mean?
It
like,
adds
going
up
out to
so
eat,
fast.
Uber Eats, like all that shit. So we really put austerity, and we were like, let's prepare to plan for a full-blown worse situation than 10 years ago, because we were in the working field, 10 years ago with the other recession. But also the gym membership thing, like, it was nice. I actually got out of debt during Corona because I had no expenses to pay, other than food and rent. So like, I didn't go out, no travel. Like, I think, I used to live between here and Miami. Like, that's done. Like, we're taking a full blown break from that jet setting life. Cause like, why? I literally cannot travel. That one thing that brings me so much joy is no longer an option, but it also sucked a lot of my income. I was like killing it, but living still paycheck to paycheck, because that's like a lifestyle choice. So a lot of positivity came out of this. And with that also came a reduced sense of pressure and stress for how I operate my business. I have agency experience and I have corporate experience. So like you really like are on top of your fucking shit all the time, and everything is urgent and everything is like putting a fire out in that environment. So I kind of cut that out, especially after my clients started to come back and were like, we're looking to you to like really help us, and we really appreciate this, and you're the first person that we're calling to like figure this shit out.
It seems like you have more time now too, like because you're not flying, because you're not doing all those other things, you probably have more energy and more time to put into your clients, which and more money to invest in yourself. So it's like now you're sitting here like, ooh, like let me focus on myself and the localization, I guess, of it, and go forward like that.
Yeah. Well, that's the first part of the quarantine. Then came May, when the disaster assistance loan for my business came into play, which was pay off your business debts and reinvest in your staff. So once my clients reached out to me and that came in, like the first thing I did was like, I called Shell and I called Courtney and I was like, we're back in business, y'all. Like, you know, this ship is not going to float just one. We're in this together, you know?
And Shell, and this is a random side, but Shell's the whole reason why I knew you were such a badass, because I had just met you at that Throw Social event. Were you involved with the marketing behind that, or
Hold
no?
on, let me be clear about why you know I'm a badass. Because I served your ass on a platter throwing acid.
Wow!
Bullseye.
Time out.
Bullseye.
Okay, I'm gonna have to concede that out for two people who didn't know how to throw an axe. You did whip my ass on that one. I was pretty embarrassed.
But that you know, Shell's an old friend of mine that we met through the blog influencer sphere. Shell's also like this amazing, kind soul and energy that like I'm like a hard ass Northeast Coast like media PR Samantha Jones bitch, but I'm nice. But like, I know my delivery can come off like, pew, pew, pew. And like, no matter what, Shell, like Wonder Woman's like, pew, 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 pew. And so like, and on top of that, she's amazingly talented and extremely professional. And I was like, perfect fit for designing the district. You're exactly what we need to like keep my, you know, a little bit like softer. And
that's so funny, because I never got that vibe from you. When I met you, I was like, oh, like this is like I was like, oh, Timur's a really nice guy, like really outgoing and really like sort of just like in the ethos. And so maybe I just didn't get like that impression of you. But then we were talking.
Well, it wasn't work. I wasn't associated with social.
Yeah.
I flew in that day to attend this party. And I like overlapped it with a media shoot I was doing to launch the new box on U Street. So I was filming a commercial. So I was in DC for less than 24 hours, like bing, bang, boom, done. I was so excited to be back from Miami, even though like I love my Miami, but you know, like a cool axe throwing. And this was the like first time you and I actually hung out properly in person, not like adjacent at an event, you know?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say was that like I would, just off the impression I got of you, I never would have thought you were some social media marketing branding badass. Like I like, no offense or anything, but like, I did not get that impression. So when I found out, I was like, fuck yes, because I love when I meet someone and you can't read them entirely, because I love to like read people and think I can figure them out when I meet them. And I thought you were a cool guy, but I was like, oh, he probably is just like some influencer, some blogger, like another one of Shell's friends. But then I was like, wait a minute, Shell works for him. Like this guy has like this amazing company where he's helping DC. And I was like, I love that, because it's like what you present is really cool, but then underneath it's like badass, like a I don't know, like a Miata with a Porsche engine, you know? It's kind of
totally. My public career started wrapped around me and my personality and my name, and then it got a little too much for me. Like, just it was too much in my 20s. It was like, and this was well before social media was an accepted thing. So it was like fake celebrityism a little bit back in the days, you know, in DC. So I like left to just, I was throwing big parties. People knew me from all over. I was in Washingtonian and in all these newspapers before like Facebook was a thing, but it wasn't like this mega business marketing tool, you know. I used it that way, but it wasn't that case. So like, and all I really wanted to do was like, I just wanted to have like a normal life where like I could go out and like meet guys that weren't like, oh, you're small. So I moved to the West Coast.
Oh, you kind of were like the Great Gatsby of DC, I guess, back then.
Like in like a very, very, for like the analogy term, yes, but very different. You know,
it's a TImur party. Ooh, like like the whole gay scene like knows you. It's like, oh, you're the fun guy. It's like
that's exactly what it was. So there was like this guy, but not like the normal guy. So I left for California for many years. I learned a lot of like interesting lessons about myself. My career exploded. Like I did exactly what I planned to do. Like do great things, change the world, and I did. I changed many people's worlds over there. But it was also through that experience that I was like, okay, fuck this. Like, why am I letting money lead me to like my joy? It just was not the case. And I came back home to DC to start over. And one thing that I decided was like, I need to rebrand my business and remove my name out of it because like, I want my work to speak for itself. I don't want my name, you know.
When you went to the West Coast, and sorry to cut you off. When you went to West Coast, were you working at an ad and media PR agency then, and then you came to DC and started it, or what was that like? And when did you make that leap?
So I started living in California when I was actually working in healthcare IT. That was my like really first corporate marketing job, and I went for something that I had no idea what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Corporate cubicle, like. Chinese owned and operated, but American tech and healthcare. This was right when the recession was, you know, everyone was crawling out of it. And I just didn't want to go to grad school, you know, like, I'm like, I have so many loans already. Like, why do I want to go to grad school? I'd rather learn through experience. I was traveling a lot for that work. And that's when I like really found home in San Francisco. And I was traveling so much, I was never in the office. And I proposed to them, I'm like, may I just make the West Coast office, which was in Arizona, my base, because I want to be living in San Francisco. They said no, I quit. 2 weeks later, I reached out to like the owner of a really badass creative agency here on 14th Street and was like, he actually linked in with me, and I just kind of planted the seed that I looked up to them for many years, and I'd love to come in and learn more about their business and chat. And during that chat, I presented to them my vision of me and where I want to go, but how I would do that helping them, which was to build a marketing department within their creative agency and make it scalable. And that I wanted to be based in San Francisco, get clients here and open an office out West. And they were like, well, we can do this, this, and this. Why don't you prove it? You know? And I was like, okay. So I just had to figure out how to become a director of marketing for a creative agency, like real fast, taking my corporate experience and like all this and like and package it in this marketing machine. And I bugged out West. I did that for a while with them. And then I got approached by a dream job in real estate development to like help culturally engineer an urban renewal project like Tyson's Corner, but in San Francisco. You know how they're like redoing the whole landscape and philosophy. And that was like my passion. Like I love people. I love curating lifestyle, and I love like helping to design better, best lives for people.
I feel like you just threw a whole bunch in my mind, and I'm just trying to decipher this. So wait a minute. You went from the West Coast to here to this creative agency, which is like just cool. I love creative agencies. Like it just seems like such a fun ad PR marketing job. And you proposed to them that you wanted to start a sub company with them that helps brands. Like I'm kind of
so they only offered they're DC based, they're DC New York based, and they only offered creative services, graphic design, web design, presentation design. As coming from in-house in corporate, I had partnered many times with agencies of the sort to help support our marketing initiatives, but I was running the marketing side of it all. So I was directing creative agencies, and then we would need marketing support. And many of these agencies had no marketing bandwidth. So I'm like, let me approach some agency that I really would love to work for, and let me tell them I will become their marketing component, because that sells in complement with graphic design, web design. And
then that way you're not under the foot of a 9 to 5. Office life.
It's an agency. It was 9 to 5, but you know.
But the culture is different. The culture is different.
It's 7 days a week. It's fun. It's whimsical. It's fast paced. It is agency life is what set the precedence, I think, for what we call the gig economy now. But that also helped me. Like I was running a lot of things for them, and then I was also building business. And like my boss was 20 years my senior, so I learned a lot from that. And then one reason why I was approached when I was full time at this point running the West Coast office of this agency in San Francisco, one of the reasons why I was approached by a large real estate investment trust to spearhead this is I did have personal real estate development experience in my background, and I landed a huge project for what was my current job, the DC-based agency, to help design the Capitol Riverfront, Navy Yard neighborhood. And it was great. We landed an awesome contract. Yeah, it's cool because actually
that's a huge contract. That's one of the biggest like urban developments in a long time.
One of my clients is in the building. Dacha Navy Yard is actually in one of the retail spaces of the Dock 79 project, which anchored this whole development plan of this brand that I helped develop with MRP. And it's so funny that I'm now working as part of what the intent was targeted to attract, a high end, this age group, like at that time, millennial wasn't really a term, but affluent millennial targeted lifestyle experience. And
well, definitely has that vibe. That's for sure. I'll tell you what, my cheap ass ain't going up there to eat dinner.
Well, hey, you can, it's not actually expensive, and I'm sure you can,
real quick, and sorry to cut you off, but real quick for people listening, if you're not from DC, essentially this project that Timur was involved in, and I'm going to try and sum up, please fill in the holes are wrong. There's this part of DC that's along the river. I think it's the Potomac or something like that. And
Anacostia waterfront.
Yeah, Anacostia waterfront. And along this river, there was just a wharf. And there were like a few big restaurants, but it was kind of like a nostalgia thing. Like they had Phillips Seafood Restaurant. And the big thing was this sort of small open air fish market. And that was really, it wasn't glorious.
Hold on, time out. You're talking about the wharf. I'm talking about Navy Yard.
What's the difference?
Navy Yard. So Navy Yard is by Nats Park. Navy Yard is where.
See, I'm glad we cleared that up. Navy. Okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Navy Yard's. Okay.
That area.
I'm talking about the wharf. Sorry, yeah.
For context, they're adjacent. They're like a triangle, but one is over here, which not a poor description. What you were saying, that side of the Anacostia waterfront actually was home to naval offices and civilian naval adjacent. There were warehouses. There were like industrial warehouses for things like salt for snow. And there were clubs, like nightclubs. It was, over there.
That was that whole Navy Yard section, because I grew up around DC, and that Navy Yard section was literally just like you go to the ballpark and you leave. But it wasn't like you go to live there or go to experience culture or anything like that. Yeah. It was mostly just, like you said, warehouses and a ballpark.
The ballpark didn't come and open until 2005, and like my early clubbing days in DC, 1999, 2000, over there in like the dangerous hood, which
it was dangerous.
Yeah, which is now like luxury apartments. It's we could get into a whole nother conversation about gentrification, and like now in 2020, like it's definitely a huge point of topic. Learning everything about redlining through what has been reawoken from this current Black Lives Matter movement. It's a give or take type topic. And that was also part of the reason why I left working in real estate development, to be honest, in San Francisco. I was chasing money. Really? And what I was trying to do was take the best interest of the people and really build something special around what they needed. And I kept getting knocked off my pedestal for that because it wasn't profitable. And that wasn't something that jived well with me. And I made the decision. I'm like, I would rather be happy than rich.
Interesting.
So
it's very noble.
But it's true. I was working my ass off to like get this. They were dangling this $250,000 bonus. It's like production for like revenues. Basically, what we were doing is we were renovating existing old properties, raising the rent from like $900 a month and their rent control to like $4,000 a month. And I was like, this is great. What an awesome way to make money. And like my marketing programs will attract the affluent tech millennials to get here. And then I realized like, shit, I'm a part of the problem.
How does that work? How do you get someone out of a rent controlled place? Like, how do you like convince them to leave?
Well, what you do is you start transforming available places. You update the property. If you have the ability to update property and landscape, then you're able to change what was once this grandfathered experience. It's kind of like a new property. And then, you know, when you change the culture to something else as well, sometimes it doesn't fit very well with who exists in that area. And then sometimes people are offered money to leave, you know, so that wasn't part of what I was doing. I was just the creative little fairy coming in to sprinkle like energy centers in the neighborhood and like come up with community gardens, and I threw state fair and like Halloween festivals for the children. And I started this thing called Senior Social Hour because we had a huge rent-controlled senior community there. And I'm like, they need to be engaged with, you know, and that the superiors at this job, they very much appreciated that. But at the end of the day, you know, they were like, Timur, we need the Google campus to come here to pilot their techs, and we need this Volvo contract that we're working on to study autonomous drive here, and we want these people living here, and we want these people paying this much money, which was great. I was doing great for them. Would
it be like per building, or would it be like per like an area that they'd want to transform?
The whole, so this unique part of this neighborhood specifically, 161 acres in San Francisco proper, was the largest privately owned neighborhood in the country. So it was a post-war community that was designed to like for around that vehicle, you know, San Francisco address, but it was a curated community. Imagine like if the Walter Reed campus by Silver Spring, because that's like a campus, was much more massive and was a place for people to live, not for medical. But you know how it doesn't fit in the grid, like it had its own shtick? Yeah,
it's kind of like a weird little island amongst everything else.
Exactly. So this neighborhood in San Francisco, well, one thing we were doing, we were re-urbanizing, so re-implementing the cohesion of the grid. We were rerouting public transit, the streetcar, through the neighborhood rather than adjacent to it on the main avenue. We owned the buildings and the garden apartments. We owned the land, so we were renovating the buildings. We were also developing the land, building 17 new towers because there was a lot of green space that we had the ability to, you know, do what we wanted with. And this is San Francisco. It's still the Wild West, and living on the West Coast like taught me a lot about the difference in East-West Coast culture, and me choosing to partake in the gold rush economy, if you will, this real estate, taught me a lot about San
Fran.
Well, I mean, it's like, it just brought to life a lot of what we learned in history and how that culture is still present today. You know, this gold rush mentality. People come there, Wild West, not many rules. People come there to chase their dreams, this California dream, which in San Francisco terms, think about it, tech, real estate's money, you know, gold, money. It just like, I felt like I was ejected out of San Francisco because after 4 years, I was like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I came here for like the faggotry and the whimsy and like the hippiness. I did. And this is a very long-winded point, but like what that taught me was like, I can do great things. And I don't need my name to like precede that. And my hometown, after having 4 years of like I worked really hard to cultivate experience throughout my 20s. I caught up with corporate tenure that I never had because the recession threw me a wild card. You know what I mean? I chased a knowledge base that I knew I would need to set myself up for future success. Right now, I'm in the midpoint of my sort of professional journey, how I've designed it. I would love to be retired at 45, done so. Like the move.
The reason why I kind of pried into the whole gentrification thing is because I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but since you're someone who kind of worked inside of it, I've always been curious of just how that chokehold worked, you know, like just exactly what developments and what ways that chokehold worked, because I've talked with people in DC and people have their opinions, but no one knows exactly how it works. And I've heard like a couple things, but it's interesting to hear, like you just slowly start implementing like the culture into it. Then you add things that may not jive and cohese with the people that live there. And then it makes them want to leave. And then like the last few people are left and you're like, oh, here's some money to get the heck out. And then it's like,
not that it makes them want to leave, but like, you know, think about it, how people are like, we don't want change. We don't want big box. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people, whether you're part of that OG community that's being gentrified or not, you know, you grew up around DC, so did I. Like I didn't really want like Borders books to like come to Georgetown, you know what I mean? Even though I didn't live in Georgetown, like, and it was a Barnes and Noble, but whatever. But I'm gonna bring it full circle back to like the point about like thriving during this pandemic. So like gentrification, just like any type of creative service or marketing, is the way that I look at it and the way that I approach it in my philosophy of work is reverse engineering an outcome. And like creative services or marketing services truly take like articulate, detail-oriented thought, strategy, and calculation. In order to build a skyscraper, you need to know every nut and bolt, not only of the structure, but the landscape in which you're building it, and the environ, and how that climate and the surrounding structures imply that building, you know? So,
you talk like such a marketer. Sorry, you talk like such a marketer. Like your like lingo and your linguistics. It's like you've been in the shits. I can tell. Like you have this finesse about how you like talk about things.
It's just like it's my life's work. It's so crazy that I'm becoming my parents at 36 years old. I'm like, like what the hell? Where did this happen? Where like I actually do what I love for a living. Like
that's
what the
amazing.
fuck? And I don't mean to regurgitate buzzwords, and I don't mean to throw anyone curveballs. So I'll try to like minimize those. But with gentrification, think about it. Like think about Navy Yard, for example. DC made the decision to invest in bringing baseball back to the city, which is a greater cultural implication than just one neighborhood could define. You know, that really shifts the 7 million people that live around here's mindset, because we're going to capture a lot of attention and focus it inward with something that we can have civic pride. So let's build something that can accommodate this. So we look for areas that can physically accommodate it, afford it, and can contribute to the adjacent future growth that would bring. A stadium, you can't just plop a stadium down like in the 20th century model outside of the city, because people want food, they want beverage, they want access, like transit, for example. FedEx Field is like, that's a fucking joke. Like getting out there, like you have to get in your car.
It's a pain in the ass to get out there.
So how is this going to be for all? So many people don't have a car, and what are you going to take, a fucking bus that takes an hour and a half? Like, you know, so you really have to think about these things. And obviously at that time, the city was off limit in the late 20th century because the city was in shambles after race riots and this like last century's version of what we're going through now, which is totally different, but the same story, which is depressing and sickening, to be honest. Our generation needs to, you know, chop with this one. But
so you're saying like, the city essentially was like, we want to revive Navy Yard. Let's put a stadium there, and then that'll be the starting point, the impetus for everything else. Like
Amazon did with vetting its HQ2, different areas and developers which hold claims to land will propose to the city, and the best plan wins, and the best for the city's checkbook wins, and the best thing that will serve the city's community will win. This is a great relevant. Many people followed the whole Jeff Bezos Amazon vetting process for 2 years of cities to bring Amazon Group 2. Yeah. It's just like that, you know, and you saw so many developers and municipalities coming together to design the future of how this very important tech company will thrive beyond today, you know.
He did choose DC, right? Or Crystal City.
Yeah, Crystal City. I mean, and like for me, having this experience from the beginning, I was like, DC is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. This city is already gentrified, so things aren't going to skyrocket above. Like the ship has sailed with DC. There's very few areas which haven't been affected by commercial development, if you will. Sure. And one thing that really catapulted this was the MCI Center, which is now Capital One Arena, and the baseball stadium, you know, and sports is for all, and it's an easy way to get a neighborhood to redevelop.
That's an opinion, because by putting a baseball field in the middle of like a black neighborhood, I can't speak for black people, but I would think black people aren't generally baseball fans. That's mostly like a white people thing.
Understood. And I was saying in a more general context, think of the greater population. sports is a very simple thing for people to embrace.
It's an attraction. Yeah, it's fun. It's decent to do.
And also a stadium is not only one sports team, concerts, it's festivals and whatnot. So, and by the way, like, I'm not this pro gentrification guy. I'm just sharing you my experience.
No, we're just talking about it in general. And I'm neither some like...
it's knowledge I've gained through working in it. Not like I didn't write the book and I didn't study this. So, and real quick, just for record, I'm not some guy who's like, fuck gentrification, or on the other side, I'm just trying to understand it, Yeah, totally. And this is just how I understand it through, but that's all. So, and also keep in mind that the neighborhood that the baseball stadium was put into was not necessarily a Black neighborhood. That Navy Yard area was actually a lot of vacant structures. It was a depressed waterfront, which you call the wharf, over there.
Yeah, it was sad.
And the Navy Yard itself was also a depressed waterfront. There was no residential and no commercial. The neighborhood needed a revival, and this I actually do agree with. I loved coming to like the gay strip clubs and the nightclubs and the raves down there. Trust me, like that. This isn't the first time I had green hair. Like, there's a reason why I started throwing parties in DC. I learned from the best, But this brought life to the neighborhood. It brought business. It brought interest. Navy Yard is now looked upon as one of the most attractive neighborhoods in the United States to live in. And it's quite an example. And I wasn't part of the full design of that. I worked specifically on Capitol Riverfront in this Dock 79 Frederick Douglass Bridge area, which now Dacha Navy Yard happens to situate, where I also now work. So to make the point back to your beginning point, I feel during this pandemic, I needed to have a freak out moment, just like everyone else did. And like, still, I don't feel I have roving freakouts anymore, but sometimes it just, it's frustrating because I would like to return to 2019. It was a great year for me, personally. And without a plan and without a purpose, it's really hard to get yourself to like free yourselves from the clenches of uncontrollable normalcy, which is today. During that April period, Bruce, like I actually did, I'm like, who is designing the district? What do we do? How can we help? What are we great at? Creativity, reinvention, all loyalty. These are all things that we're good at. Stayed true to my clients, came right back to me. Amped up my team, and like, you know what? Like, even though we're not making the money we were before, I'm okay with that. Not everyone is making the money, and hard work really does pay off, and things do change. So like, one thing I did was I made sure to like chop any perceived ego that I had before she came to be.
I think a lot of people have had to chop their egos down amidst all this and do jobs and do things they didn't see themselves doing in 2019 or their pride wouldn't let them do in 2019.
And that's part of that, like, now is normal mindset, I applaud people that are holding strong to their core brand values and their media kits and price kits. Good for you. Go after what your value is. I know where my value is, and I feel that this fairness is exactly where my value is right now. That's who I am as a person. I learned the last time in the recession, it was really fucking shitty to not have a job for over a year and have to lean on my parents, Thankfully, I had my parents to lean on. So many of our generation did not. Yeah. And one thing that I've embraced now was like, look, like, be safe, be mindful, be compassionate, but when you can work, and this is for everyone watching, listening, and in the room and in your room, or us too, who have the dog right here, do it. Do your job. Get paid. Don't be an idiot. Don't waste your money on stuff right now. Yeah. We may be shuttered in place for longer in the winter. We may not. More people might be getting sick. More of our friends might be getting sick. More of our friends might be dying. This year could be more sad, or this year could get better. There could be a vaccine. These are all things, though, that with proper planning, from my perspective.
I think we're learning is that things can change so fast. Literally tomorrow, some company could come out and be like, we found a perfect vaccine. And then another month happens and they make enough of it, and then everything gets back to normal. Or not back to normal, but back to the new normal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's made everyone sort of this like career acrobat in how you're going to adjust. And one of the things that like I am keep my eyes on and seeing is specifically like the food and service industry, and especially how the food industry is changing amidst all this, which I think is just nuts. It's like now everyone's embracing these like patios and these outdoor events, and then now people are like drinking on the streets, which is fascinating. And I can imagine that
is amazing.
Which feels normal and fun as hell.
Yeah, well, for the record, like I'm sober, I don't drink, but like I love this for business, and I love this for our culture and community. I don't think people are acting a fool right now. This isn't like Bourbon Street. It's normal people getting their drink on, walking home, going to the park, like in Europe, like a functional, comparable place. I love it. I also agree with you with the food and beverage industry. I didn't really realize before this pandemic how much I work in the restaurant industry. Like, I'm like, shit, like I might not be a waiter, but I definitely work in the restaurant industry, you know?
Yeah, a lot of your clients are based, just from what I can see.
Yeah, and they're finally embracing creativity, and I love it. You know, it's like, we gotta be creative.
Interesting perspective. They have to be creative now.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that people are like, what the fuck do we do? And I'm like, this is what we do. Let's do it, you know? And people, the consumer love it, you know? And
can I ask Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was just saying, like, I find myself often with my role within organizations. Internally, I find myself the translator and mediator between staff and ownership. But then also my role is I have to translate, just like in the real estate development, the audience to the ownership. And I have to take everyone's best intention and best will and really filter that into something healthy, productive, profitable in some cases when we're talking profit, and enriching. And it feels, right now, for me, like my ear and my voice is being very valued, and I am absolutely warp speeding the engines at Designing the District. We just added a new teammate because we're expanding right now. We're taking new clients even at a lower... You're
expanding right now. Amidst all this, you're expanding.
Well, in my approach, it's like, you know, right now is the time to work. We're alive, we're young, we're healthy, we have the energy. Even without the pandemic, like I told you, Bruce, my plan's to retire in less than 10 years. So like, as long as I have this crazy energy to get shit done, I'm going to try to get it done.
So how are you adapting, like I guess since food is a big part of what you do, and like what I think a lot of listeners might know is, how are you adapting your marketing agency? Is marketing agency the right term? Or creative consulting agency?
Sure. I mean, we're a creative consultancy. We're a brand marketing agency. We're an ideas agency, you know, like. So
how are you shifting that with the new normal? Like, what is, like, specifically, like how are you using, and to offshoot of that, I love your use of bloggers and influencers, because they know, like, if there was something that I specifically noticed, I was like, I love how Timur utilizes local influencers and local bloggers as part of his marketing strategy, which I think is genius. But how are you like adapting everything now that restaurants are kind of in this position where they can't just rely on what was working, they have to shift and be creative? Like what's the ideas, what's the thoughts of how they can still be profitable and still have like the new?
Well, one thing that I attribute my mindset to is like, I actually did have to figure out how to do shit on my own during the last recession. Started my business in 2005 before the recession even was a thing, promoting things. So whatever that is, PR, in blogging, influencing, the term wasn't the same back in the day. I always had a full-time side hustle until I finally left that real estate job in San Francisco 4 years ago, which I was like, why is this my full-time side hustle? I can do it myself, you know, all the time. But during the last recession, you know, you had to quickly pivot to figure the need and demand out and satisfy that from both the consumer end and the business end. So like being able to like get over yourself and get over what you were just recently good at to like totally flip it and change it. So one thing for certain is, to be a successful marketer, in my opinion, you really do have to be plugged into real life, real time happenings. Like what's going on. People don't have money. People that do have money need to spend it really wisely. So don't just go after a paycheck. Go after things that, like, you can kill it. Like, be confident in what you're good at killing it. Back to your point about influencers and bloggers, the reason I chose Designing the District as my business name is, I was coming from a role that I actually was designing a district, like a whole neighborhood. I'm from this area, the district. I was born in DC, grew up in Maryland. I bought my first condo in Arlington. So I have like a full-blown DMV situation, just test drive all the area out, know what I'm talking about when it comes to this local area. And also, it's like a little bit of the talent nature. I have this really, again, like, not on any high horse and no ego right now, but I have a very interesting background at our age group, being an older millennial, to have gone through pioneering this type of like gig side hustle economy before it was even a thing, and using social media as a business marketing tool before they offered business marketing tools in social media. So like, I kind of unraveled the puzzle early on. And I used a lot of my event promotional experience to help drive business to businesses during the last recession. And I also used my social media popularity via Facebook back in those days, because I was a party promoter. My friend list filled out like bam, fast, because I was like the cool party guy, And on top of it, like, I was the wildly flamboyant gay guy in the regular social scene here in DC. So people knew me. Bloggers and influencers do the same shit I did 10, 15 years ago, just on a different platform application. And to me, having that experience and being now considered one myself, in today's terms, I love to embrace proven hardworking talent that can also hit multiple birds with one stone, benefiting everyone.
I had no idea. I totally thought you were like blogger influencer first and then business second. I had no idea, one, that you had so much experience. I thought you were a lot younger than you were, because you look a lot younger. So it's like, that's the experience. Hey man, it's like, but like, it's really interesting that, you have that early influencer experience, and you're mixing that with the new people now as sort of like, and helping guide them and helping guide the new sort of like economy of creative influencing.
And for the record, remember, I hit hard pause on like TImur Inc. when I moved to the West Coast. I moved to the West Coast to become like, just like a normal crunchy hipster. You know what I mean? Like go like maybe like do a little mushroom in a park type thing, and like wear wigs all the time, and like just not give a fuck about like perceived appearances, and like have a corporate job that's creative and whatever. I came back to a new landscape in DC. Like, I kind of gave up my throne, my queendom, if you will, and there was a new crowd of people creating, and they embraced me, and they taught me a lot the first initial years back home about this new type of engagement style, which I really appreciate. I look at all my peers as equals. The Shells, the Romans. Roman just joined our team. I'm just giving you some context.
He's the new person?
Yeah, Roman's the new big guns on the team.
I love Roman. He's awesome.
I love Roman, and like,
sharp,
we all have unique and different experience, but something that we have in common is we're hardworking and we're creative and professional. But
that specifically is something that I think is interesting about what you do with Design District, is instead of hiring some 23-year-old person coming from VCU who just got their advertising degree, instead of doing that, you're hiring local influencers who are already plugged in, who already may have done these accounts, but now they're doing it still in their own way, but under Designing the District, which I thought was a neat, unique twist.
Yeah. When I work with Shell and Roman and all the other creatives that I work with, whether it's on a contract or more full time, one thing we like to do first and foremost is like, tell me what you love to do. Tell me what you're most proud of. Tell me what you thrive doing, and then also tell me what you want to learn. Because like, I'm not gonna tell you, Bruce, let's say you're joining the Designing the District team, this is not your role, do it. No. You tell me what your role is, tell me what you can do. Tell me how you can thrive in this environment. then tell me what you want to do that you don't know to do, because I can bring you into these larger type of, let's call it collaborations to keep the influencer term going, but they're marketing retainers, running corporate brands. Like that's a little bit bigger than a paid post partnership type thing.
It's way bigger.
And it's you commit longer tenure. So like you get really embedded authentically in the product that you're selling. And that's also one thing when I do like paid partnerships, like most of the time these paid partnerships, I can't just say yes to a paid Instagram post. That's not reality for me.
That's not what you do. You operate on such a higher level.
I really would like to create a contextual relationship with the audience so that I can be authentic when I am recommending a product. Like throwing $1,000 or $2,000 my way, that will get a short-term project that you will get in my blog or on a Facebook Live and a newsletter and in my stories multiple times and a post in order to develop context and watch me evolve to really learn what I'm talking about, And like, that is how I like to sell to you. I like to actually know what I'm talking about. I like to know through experience what I'm selling to you. And if that's how you want to follow me and buy into what I share, and look, I share a lot more than just sell. Like I'm just doing my life and these things that I sell happen to fit in that, It
kind of seems like instead of a company like Dasha, which I know is one of your clients, if you're okay to talk about, like instead of them just hiring a bunch of influencers over and over again for whatever their marketing guy is, it's like you come along and you're like, hey, I run a whole marketing, I guess, creative company, and I will handle all of this for you, and I will hire those influencers and they work for me already, as opposed to these influencers getting like one-off gigs of how they were like sort of surviving before, which in a sense, it kind of like hurts like a blogger's influencers, but at the same time, like that original question I asked you, which may have just been way too heady, it's
sorry, are you there?
It's like
my mom was calling.
It's like the blogger and influencer economy is shifting.
Yes and no. So one thing, again, like in the way that I do my business, is unique in and of itself, and everyone's business is different. And like, I see projects with like more proper PR agencies or marketing agencies, and I'm like, oh God, I would love to have all that and blah, 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 blah. Trust me. Like, it's not like, yay me or whatever. One thing, my really good friend, Dr. Alex Naimi, she's my dentist and a very good friend. And she helped me through the last recession. Like I helped her with social media for her dental practice and through some like Botox and teeth whitening events to like get new clients in there. And I did her front desk. But one thing she taught me, and she's like 10 years older than me-ish, give or take. She taught me in the break room at her dental practice during this recession. We were having like McDonald's or whatever shit we could afford for lunch. She was like, Timur, one thing that I've learned in business is that you tend to do business with your friends, and what we say is we like to spread the money around the table. And that really always resonated with me. It's like, yeah, like spread the money amongst fam. And like the stronger the fam, like the more in the monetary sense, like the more profitable and enriched you'll feel because everyone's happy and you know your customer and your customer knows you and you buy them and they buy you. So when I invest in talent and creatives, and this isn't just bloggers, influencers, I also would like to say that like I am a huge LGBTQ advocate. I will always put my community as a priority, and I will always make sure, no matter what, whatever it's a marketing thing, a brand thing, or a personal thing, that my community is considered and that my community is taken seriously and that my community is a part of an execution. Because
you don't think the LGBTQ community is taken seriously?
Like Pride Month just happened and all these brands come out of the woodwork to do like, oh, we're running a Pride promotion. I'm like, okay, and what about July, August, September, October, November?
Oh, it's like you're looking for like the look, the social look. Look, we're allies.
And also like, who else are you working with? Oh, I'm the only one that you know in this area. Well, hold on. Here's a list of people that I would like you to hire that work in our community. You know what I mean? Like, here are some great people. And I like to invest in talent for the communities that I participate. I will frequently hire drag performers, LGBT DJs, you know what I mean? Other LGBTQIA creatives, if you will. I will embrace the LGBT social media. You know, it's in DC specifically, it's not as strong as in like New York or San Francisco or LA. Like there aren't many other Timurs here, which is sad, but if I can find them, I'm going to support them and I'm going to lift them up, you know? And same with just anyone out of my own community, you know, I like to support us. And I think I also believe in effective, efficient work. And if you can like knock out like 5 birds with one stone, like that's let's put on like the Republican business mindset here, you know, work smarter, not harder, make more money. You know what I'm saying?
That's so weird that there has to be a Republican business mindset. That should just be the mindset is work smarter, not harder.
Well, I get it. But, you know, like sometimes people use that money as ambition as a Republican allocation. And like, I'm just saying, like, if you can push one button and get 6 things done and you're making that same salary and you can go play tennis the rest of the day, like, go for you. You know what I mean? So think about it from a business standpoint. I need people that are capable of producing quality, engaging content to tell a product and consumer story in multiple applications. Who else is better to do that than someone that mastered the platform for themselves and on behalf of others?
Like someone like Roman who was already doing stuff for men's companies and restaurants.
Or Shell.
Or Shell, who is one
or me.
Or you.
Right? Like, and I'm just using that as an example. But then also just to get more granular, I will always am based on these one-off engagements with our community as well. And I will always vouch for hyper-local targeted marketing because right now specifically, like I told one of my clients yesterday.
That's all you can do.
Well, they have very sparse marketing budget now. And I said, now's the time you need to be investing in partnerships because you don't have a big enough audience to carry you through this economic dip. But they do. You know?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that seems like a lot of advice you'd probably be giving your clients. It's like, hey, we need to do strategic creative partnerships so that you can use each other for. Like,
why would we spin our wheels in the mud to build our own audience when we can pay people that have spent their life building an engaged audience to help us out? You know,
in the form of like other influencers or just other businesses?
Other influencers, absolutely. You know, other influencers, other media platforms, you know, like our generation is happy to trade product and barter and also barter and trade let's talk Republican business mindset again here, like in smaller financial implication, you know, hiring a brand, like let's say me to run your brand marketing is more expensive than, let's say, hiring a few people to promote your product. It doesn't have the longer term tenure cling, and you still have to, you know, operate your own brand marketing funnels. Like, so they're not really comparison, but I'm just giving you some input.
Yeah, but that's the difference. That's the difference.
Well, also running a Google AdWords campaign is to be effective in this marketplace. And let's just use the food, restaurant, beverage landscape. It's very competitive on the Google Ether. You have to spend a lot of recurring money for at least 90 days to have an SEO strategy work. You know, you can't just boost an AdWord for 3 weeks and expect people to find you. That's not how the Google algorithm works. Like it is what it is. Like it's a revenue stream. So no wonder it has a 90-day initial tenured phase. There are few out-of-home platforms like Hulu, broadcast television, or radio that will be as effective, as hardworking, as creative, and as low cost as an influencer partnership.
So you're advising people to advertise on Hulu and Netflix and stuff like that?
I'm advising people to work with the hyper-local targeted influencer platforms because I think that harder work will pay off better than an out-of-home campaign on Google, which will be far more expensive, cast a wider net maybe, but a less engaged net.
So someone was like, hey, Timur, we're a restaurant and we need to generate some more local sales, right? they might be thinking, should we be running Facebook ads or doing Google SEO as like their strategy to boost profits? But you're going to come along and be like, no, I think what we should do is look at which local influencers have the most impact to your demographic, and then we're going to work with some strategy to create something.
Or take it one step even further with that, like shooting the bird with one stone type situation. I'm also going to pick influencers that are wonderful at producing as their content style, engaging video, because then that video, which we'll pay for, we will run that as a social media ad, as our one ad. Or we will pay them to run it as an ad on their feed, which is even broader of an audience to target.
You could run it on both feeds. You could run it on the influencer's feed, and then you could run it on the brand's feed.
We'll add in whatever chunk of change that you would require to run an ad, and we'll pay for the ad itself, and boom, multiple birds, one stone. This is just an example. I would love my clients to fully buy into all of this that we're talking about. It's always an uphill battle, no matter what. I am the money spend department. So right now, specifically to everyone listening and watching, and for our conversation purposes, you really need to think your shit out, and you really need to understand how to squeeze that penny for you and for your clients as best as possible to really capitalize and maximize its efficacy in order to get it done.
Well, what's so interesting is right now we're in a state where everyone is kind of pinching the pennies if they own a business, right? Where is this best invested? Because people kind of feel like they need to market, but they have to think, where is the best place to use those marketing dollars, right?
Yeah.
And while I was thinking that blogging influencing might be dead, now you have me thinking it's more crucial than ever for these bloggers and influencers to not be resting on their laurels, and for them to be sort of engaging these businesses and being like, hey, we can help each other here.
Bruce, can I tell you, I have been approached by so many more brands in the past few weeks than I have ever been approached for collaborations and whatnot. And maybe it's because I don't know what it is. Like, I'm real time thinking out loud with you, but like, I think a part of me is I reduced the chip on my shoulder about requiring certain fees in my media kit. I will use my media kit as context to make sure I'm taken care of for the actual hard work I'm about to do, because I'm not just going to take a gig and post on my Instagram. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not what's going to happen. However, I am happy to come up with a partnership that is healthy for both me and you, number one. Number two, I have interacted with my peers in this agency space, and not everyone is seeing as rosy of a lens as I am in terms of that outlook. And I want to encourage those people that are like giving up hope or like feeling confused and lost, like reclaim your fucking confidence right now. Like, just flip the switch. Don't let something that's out of all of our control get you down. You know what I mean? But like, just shorten your goal span from a year to like this week. You know, if that's what it's going to take you to reclaim the ownership of today, new normal right now, like, but just do it, get it done. Don't compare yesterday to today at all. And like, try to be a little bit more open-minded to how we're going to work. Just like I told, you know, Roman I brought to the team now, and Shell's kind of new to the team too, as of like this winter. But I'm like, we're a contracting model. So like, as we grow with our workload, we all make more money. And as we shrink, we all make more. But also be prepared, y'all, like my team that might not have gone through what I went through in the last recession. Like, we're going to have to be prepared to do the same amount of work for less money right now. Like, that is how I'm leading this with designing the district. Like, I'm prepared to work harder to make sure that my lifestyle and those around me is not suffering, you know?
We live in a time where we're now working harder for less, because we need to, it's like we have to prove ourselves, but then also to keep in mind that clients don't have that money. But, you know, that's the building of relationships, because coming out of this in 2021 or the end of the year or winter, whenever, it's like, when their margins are back, when their profits are back, and it's, oh, wow, thank you so much, TImur. Thank you so much, Bruce. Thank you so much for bearing with me and sticking by me and not giving up on me, because we built a relationship amongst us so that it wasn't like, oh, you can't pay me my retainer, you can't pay me my fee. It's like, oh, well, now you hate each other, but it's like you stuck with each other and it's a little better after all.
I think that's spot on with how I look at this current situation. I even wrote to a client yesterday, just to like, we're going to shift our retainer to like a full trade for now. I'm okay with that. I would like to eventually be paid the residual from our last contract that I did the work, but no rush. Number one.
Full trade meaning for free.
For trade, no, I will get credits to their business to do our work.
That's what you mean. Like, okay.
In a healthy monetary value, because I work with this specific company because I love them. I love them. I love everything they do. And they've like had my back even as a paying VIP customer, and I was paying through the roof until they approached me to work together, And I really appreciate that. And one thing I made sure was like, trust the process. I have your back, and know that I will not leave you hanging. Like I will not leave you hanging. I will do my part to make sure you are not gonna, like.
I love that you mentioned that, because that makes me think to some clients and some recurring monthly contracts I have where now I want to think about that and be like, I should step forward with them and be like, hey, if we can't do this, let's think of how else we can compensate each other, which I think is important for freelancers and people in the creative economy, especially people like us.
Sorry.
That's a
Wiley agrees. Wiley agrees. Wiley's like, amen, sis. Amen. I agree. And like, honestly, Bruce, like just friend to friend, like I would absolutely encourage you to do that. And I think it from a professional standpoint, in the like category of like badassery equity, like when you're in front of something and when you're thinking compassionately and empathetically towards those in a business setting, which circumvents typical business engagement, that speaks volumes of your character and your work acumen and ethic. And like, I think I have like a client list that's more full than it was before. Granted, like revenue wise, like I don't think we're making as much as I was when I could handle much more of the workload myself, which meant making more money for me. But you know what? I'm not going to let the quality of work that I put my name behind suffer. And I'm going to invest that money in hiring someone badass like Roman to make us even better. Because like, you know what? I can live more humbly and invest in making something bigger, better right now, and not let this pandemic get in the way. And it's okay that I don't have a jet-setting lifestyle. And it's okay that I don't go out to dinner all the time. And it's okay that I don't mind this, though. I am reinvesting in the gym. Barry's opens today, and at 6:45 I'm like first in fucking line.
Dude, I'm sorry, man. I cannot go back to the gym. I actually canceled my gym membership because they were like, you got to wear gloves and a face mask to work out. I was like, if you think I'm going to bench press like I'm working in a hospital, you got me all the way messed up.
But look, that's like, stuff we have to, like the best self equity here. For me, I have so much energy inside of me. I need intense curated workout guided by someone to let it out. And I tried the DIY thing from home. Sorry, I didn't mean to burp. I tried the DIY thing from home during like OG pandemic days.
Yeah, OG.
It does not work. It does not work for me. I do not like how soft my body's become, and like
I hate that feeling too.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to have a Peloton, which is giving me something that I missed. My flywheel classes, but it's not the same. You know
what I've been doing is there's like this park up the street that I can do like dips and pull-ups and crunches and all this stuff.
Hill, right?
No. Rock Creek. So if you go up 16th.
The park course.
Yeah. So, but not only that is that it's predominantly a Hispanic community. And I've been playing soccer a few times a week, just pick up soccer games. And I've been loving that. Instead of just like running aimlessly, I've started like playing soccer with them a few times a week and then doing like the pull-ups and stuff. And then, I got some on my nose. And then like doing some trail runs. And that's how I've kind of like compensated for everything.
I love that. Eric and I actually during this pandemic thing, we replanned our whole life. We ended up leaving the city, which is sad because you moved to my neighborhood as I left it. We would have been neighbors. But we moved to your side of town in Virginia. But what the part of the plan was like, we just need a little more space right now. And like, this is going to go on for a year or two more, this like, in my opinion. And also that space that we need to be able to be outside doing the things that we like to keep us healthy. There's a tennis court right across the street, which is also another great exercise. The bike path is 2 blocks away, and so is the waterfront park. We love being on the water. We love being in the water, like kayak, paddle boards, whatever. And we love biking, rollerblading, skateboarding, and playing tennis. So just like to your point, finding that park, that's so amazing. And we found one. We spent a lot of the time during quarantine, actually, taking Wiley. We took Wiley on walks in other neighborhoods because Eric just moved from Miami. And I'm like, this is heartbreaking for me. DC is so amazing in the spring. I want you to get to know it. But the least we can do is get to know the landscape and maybe plan about how we want to grow our relationship, in a different way. So we chose Old Town Alexandria to become our new home. Quirky, charming community, a lot of outdoor space, a lot of outdoor activity to maybe shift the way we look at our lifestyle and dependency on the gym,
So taking it back to what we were saying, you said you want to retire at 42 or something like that. That's not that far off from you. That's 5 or 6 years, 7 years. What's your plan to do that?
So it started in 2 years ago when I was 34, and I'll just tell you, I'll try to be quick with this one because I'm a very long-winded storyteller and I love to tell my stories.
I like stories. Come on.
Yeah, stories. And there have been other recorded streaming media that I have specifically been asked to tell parts of this story. Okay. But when I was 34, I was invited by a dear friend who was 27 at the time. He lived in DC and he sort of worked in PR, but different. He spoke on CNN and was a Twitter figure, political stuff, very different from me. But he reached out to me and he was like, hey, Timur, after 10 years in DC, I think I'm going to move back home to Miami because I want to be closer to family. And I think I want to grow into my adult self there. I know that Miami's a huge part of your life. I know that you're connected there. And on top of it, I see what you do with your business and I see what you do in your home. And I would love you to help me design how my life could become that way in my 30s too. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to do that. I would love to work with a younger friend who wants me to help him groom him to become his 30s and create a nicer house for him that reflects his personality and lifestyle through thoughtful design. Design is what I do from that's the initial thing that I ever did before marketing. And also set him up to he wanted me to help him find a fitness philosophy and sort of acclimate to Miami lifestyle and become connected in more professional settings. He's 10 years since college that he was there. So that's what brought me back to Miami 3 years ago, back and forth. And I was spending a lot of time there with him, designing his home and coming up with a best self lifestyle for him. That's actually where I found Barry's boot camp. That's what hooked me in, is when I hooked him in, and it changed my life. And at the same time, something else was going through me. I was 34, early mid 30s, and your body fucking changes, y'all. Shit changes. I was holding on to my 20s for dear life until 34, and then I'm my hip, my stomach, my skin.
Don't remind me, that'll be me soon.
Oh my God, what's going on? And I was in the doctor's office, no joke, once a month for completely unrelated issues. And the thing that was recurring was my doctor being bitch, listen to your body. Your stomach hurts. You're probably putting shit in your stomach that's not good for you. You can't sleep. Well, what are you doing to make yourself sleep better? Work out more, all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. So finally come the winter 2018, I think it was, or 2019, sorry. I was full-blown listening and sort of marching on this plan that I didn't realize I was on, which would become my road to 40. And during this is when I decided to change my diet. So cut out dairy, cut out fried things, cut out simple refined flour things pizza, pasta, and cut out
bread. Yeah.
Cut out alcohol, because that was one big thing that was getting in my way of being my best efficient self. And then a part of that was also road mapping my road to 40. I was approaching 35th birthday, which happened to be, in retrospect, something when I was 24, 23, and I was like living my best snowbird life, like trying to hustle my way, like who can pay for me to be in Miami every winter? And I figured it out, you know. I was throwing parties at nightclubs and lounges down there that were up here in DC too, like
what a life.
Brand marketing for them. But like I told myself back then, I'm like, oh, what a goal it would be to have my own home by 35. And then I was like, wait, shit, like I am living in Miami this whole winter right now, designing a home and a lifestyle for someone who ended up working. He met the man of his dreams and they're now engaged literally like 2 months into our process of me like evolving him. So I was designing his apartment and living in it myself. He was living at his partner's apartment. So I'm like, and then on top of it, like, you know, like tweaking my lifestyle and like just slaying the like work. And I was like, and getting more clients in Miami. I'm like, holy shit, like I can get my own place in Miami and grow my business there. And the cards that I was dealt or I'm playing really did align with this goal I had from 10 years previous. Mm-hmm. So that was something that like really like validated my ability to plan and strategize and understand, especially going through the last recession, that you know, set your sails to the universe because you can't control it. Be prepared for things. Be prepared, you know. Ironic thing about this year is that like I've been preparing for an epic collapse ever since the last collapse, and it's like in the back of your mind, like it's gonna happen. We don't know when, because for a long time things were smooth, things were perfect, and I guess it finally happened. But so what crazy moves are you gonna make so that in 5 or 6 years you're gonna be like kicking back? So let me tell you what we've already started doing. Like, because the biggest thing, the most special thing I got out of my Miami experience, which, you know, I do miss it very much and it will always be there forever. But I met my partner, Eric.
Oh, what's
up? And, you know, like finding something that was unplanned, but an unspoken, innate, very important component of like fulfilling this version of my best self. Also recalibrated the plan, but you know, like I was fully prepared to like not have a partner in my life because that's also something on it. You know, you can't really plan for it, but what you can do is represent your best version of your best self and be confident, if you believe in universal energy, that will attract what you want, what you desire, what you deserve, or like in
by being your best self, you attract what is your equal or your match.
Newton's law, you know, like action reaction. So like invest in yourself, take care of yourself, take you seriously, plan, like set the intention, build a beautiful tomorrow, even in a shitty today, if that's your outlook.
Wait, can I ask a random question? Because I need some. Did you guys meet on a dating app?
No, we didn't.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. That gives me hope. You give me hope.
You want to hear it? So Eric and I were neighbors on the same floor in our building in Miami. And we met each other passing in the hallway. Like he moved in a week after I did to my own apartment. I was already there 7 months before designing Steven's home. I like saw him in the hallway, did a little looky look, got on the apps like immediately. And I was like, this bitch isn't on the apps. Like, what the fuck? So like, I was like, okay, he must be like European or straight or like this like Latin guy that's from like visiting, and he just seems gay to me. And I'm like, shit, that sucks. But so months go by and I'm like living that lifestyle where I'm like, I'm not going to work hard to attract the men. Like the men that I want will come to me, and like, sure. Like, you know, those things on the apps, whatever, yada, yada. But like we were crossing paths at the pool all the time, and like I was in no place to be the one to say hi. I'm like, if someone wants my attention, they gotta get it. You know what I mean?
Jesus, so
like
bougie.
That.
Okay.
Well, I was like living that life, you know. Like I was working hard. I was jet setting back and forth. Like I ain't got time to like spend towards that. Someone else needs to like hook the fish, you know. Finally,
he hooked you.
Finally, one day, like 6 months after we met, we finally crossed paths at the pool, and like I got over my ego, and he I don't know if he had an ego, but the same day our like energies aligned where we both were like, today's the day we're going to say hi to each other, you know?
Ooh.
And it was like very saucy first interaction.
Saucy? What do you mean saucy?
Oh my God. Well, I know how to play my cards real damn well when it comes to like I know how to get that big fish to think they're hooking me when really like I got you.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So, and ever since, we had our Melrose Place moment, and we've pretty much been inseparable, minus the I lived 2 weeks there, 2 weeks here for many months until Corona. And then Eric moved up here. Like, basically the conversation was, he was, the plan at New Year's was for him to actively start getting work up here to move come springtime. Cause I was like, Eric, like I snowbird. So I'm here all winter. Obviously this is great for us, but come early April, I'm done. Like that's launch season in DC, and I gotta be in March working on my building back up my client roster in DC. Like I can't just be focusing on this snowbird life, Yeah. So the plan was already in motion, and then he was coming up here as a plan for March, vetting job offers, and without fully accepting, because they kind of got suspended as like Corona for the rest of the world, even though in January I was like, y'all, this is a problem. Get your masks, like figure your shit out. That was also part of our discussion. I'm like, I'm not going to be traveling that much because this is scaring me. And everyone thought I was crazy. And I was like, not crazy. I was prepared, but he put in his time at his previous job. Like he was like, okay, I'm done. And then like shit shut down even before he could finish his 2 weeks. And I was like, babe, get out of there before they don't let you. I'm not going to go through this. I'm not going to go through this without you by my side. So like as part of the plan shifted the reasoning, but it was on line with our timeline,
like it worked out perfect. Like now you get to spend this time together, see if it really works out. Honestly, man, I'm just so glad you gave me hope that it wasn't, I guess for you, Grindr or Tinder or whatever it is, because I feel like I've been on these dating apps and every time I meet these people, I'm just not impressed.
Yeah,
like, no, it's just so disappointing.
Well, honestly, like we were born, okay. He was 83, I was 84, and we were groomed by our elders to like cruise and like go to the artsy cafes and like the gay aisle at Barnes and Noble and like the club, you know what I mean? And then it was after we were already having like, good sex and like dating our first loves that like these apps came up, So like we were doing, I was doing like AOL chat rooms and like gay.com chat rooms back in the 90s and stuff. Like that was like a thing. And like we would meet up at like, places, but it wasn't embraced. And like, I don't think you were like old enough at this time.
Probably wasn't.
But the straight community was really not into it. They were like judgmental of this like online thing for a very long time.
Well, because the gay community had an online dating app way before the straight community ever did.
Because we're smaller and we have limited environments to meet each other, and not everyone is in a city where gay people live.
Playboy.
Oh my God. Fire. Thank you so much. Bye, Eric. Love you. So, like this was a huge benefit for us because it connected us worldwide. Smaller demographic minority with like limited abilities to be public about our sexual orientation and expression. You know what I mean? So like it was a good fit for us. However, like I throw events for a living. I love people. I love interacting with people. I love technology because like, look, you and I are hanging out and we're like, like you're literally at face level with me, and I love it. Well,
stuff like Zoom. I mean, like you said, embracing it. This is how I've embraced my new podcast, is because I can't meet with people anymore. No one wants to meet face to face, but also I realized that was also a stick in my wheel, because for me to grow something, I need to talk to people with more influence and more audiences. And through Zoom, not only can I do that, but if I'm talking to like other artists who have like visual artwork, I can pull it up on the screen or pull up a video, and it's so nice to have that reference. So I kind of enjoy it more. But
yeah, totally.
But Tim, I think we should probably start wrapping up a little bit here because we're going on almost 2 hours. But
I love it. But I'm just looking. We have till 1300 on our calendar, which nice. I love. Also, like I'm very much not opposed to in-person gathering with right amount of appropriate, courtesy towards each other with mask outside at a distance, or like, at a public dining environment. But I'm just being hyper cognizant of everyone's unique experience, which is right for this pandemic. There is no wrong at all with how people are feeling and how they want to approach this. And if that's something that you're like fully, you know, you said you're playing soccer, so obviously you're seeing people outside, you know what I mean?
We
and you're
ain't wearing masks.
Yeah, you're sweating and panting. And like, you know, my mom, who's doing this differently, she's like really not seeing anyone unless they haven't
people are
seen
hardcore.
anyone. And at first I was taking it really personal. And then I'm like, you know what? No, like everyone really can do their own thing. And I'm not going to take it personal. And the same with like my colleagues and like the engagements that I've done with friends. These few people, if I'm just saying this because like many of my friends on social media have been dragged through the mud, like you're an influencer, you should be leading by example. Well, we're leading by our own comfort example. And the people we're hanging out with are the people we have been hanging out with this whole time and are also not hanging out with other people. You know what I mean? Like, and when we are hanging out, it's not like we're like, you know what I mean?
What do you mean? That's how I hang out with my friends. We're just breathing in each other's mouths, just sort of like, sup, bro?
Oh my God, I hated people like that before the pandemic. Like, remember that Seinfeld episode with the close talker? Like, oh my God, I just couldn't deal with her. And then like
the close talkers. Oh my God, that's not even a thing. Like, you can't even like hug or like dap people up anymore. It's so weird. Like the way we now greet people has changed entirely too.
And it's everyone's different, you know, and you got to be okay with that. And like, if you make a slip against your guidelines, so what? Like, wear your fucking mask, give each other a pat, you know what I mean? Wash your goddamn hands often, carry hand sanitizer with you, don't touch your face, you know? Clean your shit, clean your phone case. Like,
wait, people do that? People clean their phones? Is that a thing?
Yes, the same thing before Corona, y'all.
I'd be scared to look at how many germs are actually on this phone.
I mean, you bring your phone into the bathroom, I'm pretty sure of it. And one thing men don't do, which is a huge pet peeve of mine, there's a lid on the toilet for a reason. Close it to flush because the shit doesn't fly everywhere. Like, literally.
Wait, are you saying that when you flush, poop particles go flying out?
Yes. Like, everywhere in the bathroom.
That's scary.
Like, sit on that.
What do you mean? I like to watch it go down, man. What are you talking about?
Oh my God, it's so funny. Like a boomerang. Also, can I tell you that this notification that came down for the past 5 minutes or like 20 minutes that I'm not swiping up? It's so funny. It's from The Futurist, which is like a news publication I subscribe to. And the subject line is, "This government agency wants you to use glory holes."
What? I mean, that seems like a pretty clean way to get what everyone wants. It's sanitized.
Oh my God. I don't even know what that is about, but it's so funny. And it's like, you know what? It's just keeping me smiling. I'm not going to swipe up on this one.
Well, Tim, I'm not going to lie. I think we should wrap here. I am personally sweating my ass off because to do these interviews, I have to turn off my AC and my fan.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I live on the top floor of my apartment building, and it is a sauna. Like when the AC is not on. So I just want to say, Timur, it's been amazing chatting with you, dude. You are so smart, and the business you're running is so on top of it, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks for reaching out to me. I love hanging out with you, and I'm happy to share my wisdom, the oracle, you know, as often as you need.
Dude, you've got lots of it, man. And I'll be sure to link your IG and everything in the YouTube description below. So if anyone wants to see that and connect with you, they can do it there.
Awesome. And I will do the same for you. And I will shout this out to the masses.
To the masses. Yes. Can't wait to put it out. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's the angle. Peace out.